much of the US is braced for an Arctic storm this weekend. It's set to bring heavy snow and ice and see temperatures drop a long way below zero. Joining me now is storm chaser Kyle Cutten, who is in Pennsylvania. Looks pretty calm for the time being, Kyle. Is it cold?
It's very cold, and thank you for having me on today.
It's expected to get, now I appreciate you're probably more Fahrenheit than Celsius, but by our reckoning, minus 45 or 46 Celsius. I mean, that's pretty extreme.
It's going to be very extreme. It's going to cripple 1/3 of the nation, part of the nation that never sees this kind of weather. My concern is that for the folks that have never seen this weather, that are in large radar gaps and cell phone coverage gaps, it's something that becomes very life-threatening the moment you have no heat and you have no service.
And that's the real risk. We're hearing in some areas, some states, they've got linemen out, which sounds like the old song, but you know what I mean, out there because if the electricity goes down, a lot of people are going to be without those basic heating resources.
That's correct. And it's in an area that this will be a generational storm that when it's said and done, I pray the fatality count is very low, if none at all. But unfortunately, in this situation, tends not to be the case.
Kyle, what's the cause of this storm then? If you're saying it's a once-in-a-generation storm, what is the meteorological cause of it?
Well, essentially, we've had a system that's come over from the Pacific, grabbed the moisture, and then, of course, the Arctic blast that will funnel it has pushed it far enough south that's caused this. It'll be up to a foot of snow where I'm standing, and, of course, the ice will layer everything and cause power outages for miles to see. I'm actually going to be leaving Pennsylvania and heading down to both Atlanta and to Charlotte. I not only am the president of the storm chasing page that you guys that we've worked with, I'm also the president of a UK-based construction company, and we have projects down there. So Whitegate Construction, we will be down there looking at all of from Atlanta to Charlotte with all of the devastation.
Yeah, and look, Pennsylvania, obviously in the northeast of the US, Georgia, North Carolina, you're talking about sort of halfway down on the coast. But yeah, I mention that because the storm is going very far south. States like Oklahoma and Texas likely to experience conditions that perhaps they've never seen.
Never. Well, what happens is in those communities, they're not geared up. The houses aren't built for that. The insulation levels are low, pipes will freeze. It's most likely going to be a situation that all emergency services will be pressed beyond their capacity.
Is there a belief that climate change is behind this?
You know, it's something that it's hard to ignore and not to look at. I don't know the studies that have come out on this, but it's certainly something that you have to look at and wonder, is this what we're seeing?
And Kyle, that begs the wider question, especially as you're in construction, as to whether housing across the US can cope with these varying conditions. Of course, we saw the wildfires in California in places where a lot of homes are built with timber, which is far from ideal. And now you're saying that homes in those usually warmer states are going to struggle to cope with this.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's something that the United States needs to address and needs to address immediately. And as far as we are a large multifamily company that does hotels and larger company, but when it comes to the smaller residential, we have to really look at, like you said, why would you build wood next to timber that can be on fire? Why would you have uninsulated houses in a predominantly southern area that now is experiencing cold? It goes back to shelters with tornadoes and hurricanes. We lack this in the United States greatly.
Look, Carl, we did introduce you as a storm chaser. I mean, I appreciate chasing tornadoes and things that you know, twisters. You can see things like that. When you chase a storm like this, what does that look like?
This is the scariest. And I know people might have a hard time understanding that, but think about this. This is going to go through 170 million people's lives. This is going to be a storm that, for all intents and purposes, when you are in a hurricane or a tornado, the moment it's away from you, you don't run the risk of freezing to death. And for all intents and purposes, these temperatures are going to be in areas that people have never seen. They're most likely not going to be dressed well enough. They're most likely going to be putting themselves in harm's way, trees falling, power lines coming down, cars wrecking. I don't think people will understand the magnitude of danger that's coming at them. I have 8 storm chasers that will be spread across the United States that will be covering this, and I fear the most for their safety as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would just want to stay in bed and make sure, you know, the doors and windows are secure. Is it really wise to be chasing this thing? I mean, is there a thrill? Is it the adrenaline rush of following a weather system like this?
I'm glad you asked that. It's a great question, folks. Our page is for 100% for helping for rendering safety, for helping people in need. I can tell you a story. Just last year, I had a lady, and this is in upstate New York, where they're no, used to this, and she was stuck in the snowbank, freezing, on the edge of it being a very sad situation. I came around the corner, and there was her car embedded in a snowbank, and this is an area that is used to this weather. So imagine over the weekend when millions of people who've never seen this decide to go driving out in it or whatever traveling they do. So it's very concerning.
Yeah, you see that in a lot of places. Look, we get bad weather here, but I don't think it really compares to the sort of continental size weather that you're going to struggle with. Nevertheless, when people experience this, others tend to pull together and support them and help them. Are you seeing that kind of thing where you are right now?
Well, I think you will see that. Unfortunately, right now we have a lot of pandemonium, and the stores are being drained of all supplies. But when push comes to shove, I'd like to say the spirit of America, similar to the UK, helps thy neighbor.
Yeah, tell me about the stores then. Well, people are going and buying supplies. I mean, look, I know the prepper thing is pretty big in lots of places, but certainly big in parts of the US. Is that catching? Are people thinking, hang on, we need to get the pasta and the toilet roll and all the other things that we sold out of in the pandemic again?
Social media is on fire right now. And again, your audience can follow us on Facebook, Tornado Tacklers, and you can see on any weather channel the milk, the toiletries, the meat aisles are absolutely barren in many states across the United States.
Kyle, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Goes without saying, stay safe, and maybe we'll
Thank you.
speak on the other side.
We'll see you guys later. Thank you again.